Hey, jerks. Welcome. Big night tonight. Wicked excited about our guest on the show. I know a lot of you are on standby trying to find out what's going on with Michael Proctor at the hearing today at the Massachusetts State Police. We may talk about that a little later tonight. We'll see what happens. There's no news right now as far as I know. All the reporters are on standby. Everyone's checking their Twitter. But we have a huge guest. We have limited time, and we definitely want to talk to her about this audit of the legislature, the Mass State Legislature. They're trying to block this audit that people voted on. It's despicable. It's disgusting. We voted so overwhelmingly for this. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, everyone in the state wants this, and the powers that be are blocking it. And this one person has been standing up to them. She's a former Mass State Senator. She's a former aide at the State House. She knows all about what goes on up there. This is why I believe that she started this push on the audit at the legislature, because of these NDAs, these non-disclosure agreements, what they're doing a lot of times to women at the State House, lots of essays and harassment, and then forcing women to sign non-disclosure agreements. And it's happened to men too. It's happened to some men. So it happens to everybody up at the State House, and they cover up. And I think that's one of the main reasons why she wants to audit the legislature, to see what they're actually doing up there. There's no transparency. So I'm wicked excited. She's now, last time I think she came on the show, she was running for Mass State Auditor. She is definitely the Mass State Auditor now. I'm wicked excited about this. We've had her on when she was the state senator. I've done work with her in the past in terms of, helping some of her constituents. She's great. She is like the best rep in Massachusetts, and she's the state auditor now. That's a state office. She also recently did an audit of the MPTC, or whatever that is. They're the Massachusetts Police Training Group, and there's a lot of fraud and things going on there. She exposed that with an audit. So we only have a limited time. Apparently she's going to be here for 45 minutes or so. So we're going to get right to it. If you have questions, post them now in the chat. Welcome to the show, Mass State Auditor Diana DiZoglio. I almost said state senator because that's what we know you for so long, but you are the auditor now.
Diana's fine.
Diana, yes. Yes.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me back on. I was really, really excited when my team told me that you had reached out and very graciously extended the invitation to join you again. I love coming on your show. And I really, really appreciate, again, the opportunity to chat a little bit about the exciting topics surrounding audits in Massachusetts. I'm thrilled that you care and that you want to listen to a little bit about what we do in our office. So thank you.
Usually audits are kind of boring, but this is like very interesting because of what you're trying to audit right now, the pushback that you're getting at the state legislature. The least transparent thing in the state is this legislature. Tell us about this saga. Like, why did you decide to put this on the ballot first and foremost? And tell us about this pushback.
It's really sad. Just speaking in basic terms here, it is really sad that we even have to go through something so ridiculous of a process or such a ridiculous process in order to just get some basic levels of transparency and accountability from our state legislature, which is unfortunately frequently ranked as the least transparent state legislature in the entire nation. They're not subject to public records laws, not subject to open meeting laws. Bills are able to be passed in the middle of the night with no recorded roll call votes. We just recently got ranked as the least effective state legislature in the entire nation. And it's really, really sad to hear that, especially as someone who personally, I came out of the state legislature. I served as a legislative aide. Then I served as a state representative for 6 years for portions of the Merrimack Valley, including my hometown of Methuen. I then became a senator. I served as a senator for 4 years. And now as state auditor, have been working to do the work of auditing, which, by the way, I am the state's chief accountability officer. Don't worry, I don't audit any of you. I do not look at your tax returns. I'm not the IRS. I'm not the Department of Revenue. Our office audits government entities for you, the taxpayers, to help make government work better, to help to curb waste, fraud, and abuse, prevent waste, fraud, and abuse, and to recommend improvements to different state departments and agencies for the purposes of helping government work more efficiently and more effectively for those it's meant to serve. Think quality control and working on those processes and procedures so that you're getting the best services possible. So we go into different state entities and we conduct these performance audits, looking at the performance in different state entities. And friends, I simply would like to be able to conduct one of these audits of the state legislature where, yes, I used to serve. Recognizing that I actually love the state legislature. Again, I served there as an elected official for 10 years. I love the work that the legislature can do. I think that they do a lot of good things. I think a lot of good people serve in the state legislature. My colleagues, my former colleagues, some of whom are supportive of these efforts, and some whom unfortunately are not supportive of these efforts. I continue to work alongside on a host of issues. I love the state legislature, but I also love transparency and accountability. And I believe that our taxpayer dollars should be spent in a way that is transparent, that we should know how our taxpayer dollars are spent. And audits are there to help. They're not there to hurt. They're there to shine a light in the dark areas of state government, to shine a light on where we could do better, identify gaps in systems for these different departments so that they know where to make improvements in areas where maybe there was a blind spot. And I think that we all can recognize that there are certainly areas for improvement no matter where you go, really, because humans work in these agencies and departments, right? So there's always room for improvement, and our office simply seeks to shine a light on where we can do better, make recommendations for improvements. And it's really concerning that even after we have fought so hard to pass this issue on the ballot through question one, and even after it passed with nearly 72% support of voters across the Commonwealth coming out and saying that they want to see an audit of the legislature occur, that we still have a lot of legislators pushing back and refusing to comply with the law, even though this law has been now voted on, it is now implemented, and we continue to see this pushback. But the Speaker of the House, Mike, even recently saying something to the tune of, compliance is in the eye of the beholder. That is absolutely absurd to hear that our top lawmaker in the state legislature believes that compliance with the law is essentially up to him. And he doesn't believe he has to comply with the law. Certainly, we don't believe that any of our neighbors would get away with saying that to a police officer if they were pulled over, speeding, or if there was an issue, telling the police officer that compliance was in the eye of the beholder. And certainly, if regulators showed up to a business to enforce regulations, that any of our small businesses, our mom and pop shops, maybe even in the cannabis industry, would get to say, well, excuse me, compliance is in the eye of the beholder. So we just really have a level of arrogance that is disturbing on many different levels. And folks are fed up. They're fed up with the nonsense. And that's why you've seen so many people come together from across the political spectrum to support increasing transparency via this audit. If there's nothing to hide, open up the doors, let the sun shine in. And if we find some areas for improvement, great, let's get to work on fixing and addressing those challenges. But this is about helping make government work better, and we need to make sure that our legislators comply with the law.
And it's not just Mariano, the Speaker of the House. It's also like Healy really hasn't done much on it, and the AG hasn't really helped you at all, right? Well, like what have they done?
Well, I have repeatedly asked for support from my sisters in service, Governor Healy and Attorney General Campbell. I have not really seen the amount of support that I would have hoped to have seen by this point, especially where we saw such an influx of support at the polls on election day. The governor did, to her credit, at least come out and say that legislators and everybody, that they should work to implement the law. So I appreciate that. I would like the governor to commit to vetoing any potential changes to the law that legislators might try to implement. As we know very well, they could, pass things in the middle of the night with no recorded roll call votes, and something could land on her desk. And I do want to make sure that we have the governor's commitment that she will veto any and all actions that they may take to modify or amend or mess with in any way, shape, or form the new audit law. This audit law simply holds the legislature to the same standard as everybody else. It didn't change how we audit, the way we audit. It just simply added them explicitly to the list that already included them, because it already says we're to audit all departments of the Commonwealth and all activities of the Commonwealth. But since they exempted themselves, we made it explicit in this ballot initiative, and it now says including the general court itself. So it's very clear that they are absolutely subject to this law now. There is no confusion anymore that they're able to claim, but they are continuing to make excuses. And I do hope Governor Haley does commit to vetoing any potential changes so that we can rest at ease that we have her support fully. And Attorney General Campbell, I did just hear that she did go on the radio. Apparently, I didn't hear the interview, but I did read some of the comments that were made. And apparently, she did admit to, I believe it was host Jim Rowdy, that she did indeed vote for question 1. That was news to me. It was good news. I had been asking for her support for the last very long time, asking for support on this issue, and hadn't heard back about any support. So we did get to pass that, through the ballot initiative. It is great to hear that she is now letting us know that she did vote for that. My question to the Attorney General, however, that I have in fact and indeed stated officially to her office on numerous occasions. My question is, are you going to stand with the taxpayers in court? Are you going to let the legislature know that you will sue them if they do not comply fully with this new audit law? Or are you going to side with legislative leaders on their non-compliance and allow for this law breaking to continue to occur? Because we know that the Attorney General did already side with legislative leaders in the past. She wrote a 17-page defense of the Speaker and the Senate President's position that they don't believe they should be subject to an audit. The Attorney General's office said that they don't believe that the 100 audits that our office produced of the legislature, citing historical precedent, that the Attorney General doesn't believe that those are audits, even though it says legislative audit of the legislature on the document, and it's an audit of the legislature. And they also blocked our access to court, which is every individual's civil right and constitutional right in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to be able to access an impartial hearing. So the AG's office has in the past violated the rights of the Office of the State Auditor, infringed upon our authorities, and prevented us from going to court by not agreeing to allow us representation, which is required by statute that we go through the AG's office. But now has said that she did vote for question 1, but simultaneously has not let us know if she's planning on supporting the people through utilizing the law enforcement capabilities of her office. So I respect the Attorney General. I do hope that she comes out strong on this. She came out very strongly on the MBTA Communities Act, where she was very bold in her agenda, very bold in her statements on what she was planning to do if cities and towns did not comply. And whether folks agreed or disagreed with that, what she did in doing that was demonstrate, that the AG does have the ability to take a bold position on issues of importance to her and let folks know if she plans on suing for noncompliance. So I am looking for her to let us know if she's planning on suing the legislature for noncompliance. And I think that her taking a strong stance would indeed help legislators to fully understand that they are going to be held accountable to what the law says, and that they're not going to be able to get away with, some folks choosing to interpret the law in a way that benefits legislators only and doesn't benefit the people of Massachusetts. So we are asking the Attorney General's office to side with the people, to stand up for the people, to speak out on behalf of the people, and to say that they are prepared to sue the legislature into compliance if they do not follow the law. And should we need to go to court on this issue due to this continued noncompliance, I hope that the Attorney General will represent the people in this instance. Otherwise, I have heard that folks are already preparing to sue the state into compliance, and whether they want to sue the legislature or my office or the Attorney General's office is yet to be seen. But we have had
like the citizens, the citizens are going to sue.
Yep, they've already been threatening lawsuits.
Wow.
Yeah. So we do need to do something here. And look, I get it. The legislature funds everybody's budgets. They're very, very powerful. A lot of people fear retaliation. But this is something where the people have been crystal clear where they stand. The Constitution says that we as elected officials are to at all times be accountable to the people, and the will of the people was clearly demonstrated. So we have a mandate here to follow the law. And, I appreciate comments stating support of, the ballot question or support of the will of the people. But we really do need some action in order to ensure that the legislature is held to account, because they are refusing to comply with the law. And we have done some basic records requests of basic financials that are available as a matter of public record across state agencies in this Commonwealth, but that our legislature, because they exempt themselves from the public records law, refuses to make available, not just to me, but to all of you at home as well.
Yeah,
So
they never respond to FOIAs.
Yeah.
Never. Like they exempted themselves, which is so shady. So like the Attorney General is the one, I guess, that, because we did pin it in our chat, like, contact your legislature. But the Attorney General is probably the one that should get the most emails and phone calls from our viewers right now. Is that correct, to kind of defend
I
this?
would call and email and chat with your legislators. I would call and chat with the Attorney General. I would call and chat with the governor. I think, look, any and all support that we can get up on Beacon Hill right now is greatly appreciated. My colleagues, including the Attorney General, have expressed a lot of frustration with me in recent days, especially. And look, I get it. I am very focused on ensuring that we don't miss this moment. And, it's not easy for anyone who is pushing for bold and meaningful change, right? And, if we talk to anybody that's watching this right now, and anybody that's listening, and you think about, a time where you really wanted to make a difference and you were really passionate about something and you worked really hard on something. Well, I want folks to understand how many people worked so hard on passing this ballot initiative into law, who cared deeply about this issue, because it's not just about buzzwords like transparency and accountability that people can use, interchangeably with other words. It is about what increasing transparency and accountability can do for everyday people who have been disenfranchised and isolated from a broken system of state government that is not working for all people of the Commonwealth the way that it could and the way that it should. It's about people that have been dismissed and ignored by the powerful and the privileged, who just want a seat at the table to be able to be their own best advocate, to have a say in different policy initiatives that are coming up at the State House, and to not be excluded from backroom conversations where powerful lobbyists might get a seat at the table, but your next door neighbor is not allowed in the room. So, people are really looking for changes so that they can get access to what's supposed to be a democratic system of governance, but really to what has become more of an authoritarian regime up in the state legislature, where just a few powerful people are able to make all of the decisions, retaliate against anyone who objects to something that they might, want to push through. And it's really a lot less about Republican and Democrat, and really a lot more about people with power and everybody else. So this audit is very meaningful to a lot of people and represents a lot more than just the audit to a lot of people that I've spoken to. To a lot of people who worked on this initiative, yes, they want the audit because they want to make sure that we're able to have some level of oversight and getting access to documents. But, or I should say, and not but, and it is also for people about making sure that there is access into what's happening, and taking this one step in a series of steps that we need to be taking to open up the doors and let the sunshine in on Beacon Hill so that we can be part of this lawmaking, policy drafting process that many of us want to be part of. So we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of volunteers who went out day after day, collecting signatures, standing outside of grocery stores.
I saw them.
Calling their friends and family, making donations, folks who had a lot to give, and then folks who didn't have a lot to give, who said, I can only give a few dollars, Diana, but I really want to chip in because this is very meaningful. And for those people, we are so grateful that they chose to participate in this process. But they worked hard, Mike, and those people who worked hard, they deserve the respect from this legislature that allows them to see that the process, of putting stuff on the ballot is respected. We passed it into law. They did the right thing. They went through the process, and lawmakers need to do their jobs now. So I get it. Folks are frustrated with me. They're annoyed by me. They are irritated with me. They do not appreciate my advocacy. They don't appreciate the way that I advocate either. They don't like that I take interview requests like this. They don't like that I speak out on social media from time to time. So, I get it. I get that it's an annoyance. I get that it's frustrating to hear these repeated calls for action. But I do have a solution, and it's simply to follow the law.
Yeah, it's what people voted for.
General to say that the law needs to be followed and that she's going to stand with the people. And, once we have those firm statements of support and those firm actions of support, then okay. I maybe don't need to take to social media and talk about this as often as I do, because folks will be following the law and the Attorney General's office will have committed to standing with the people. But until I get those guarantees and until we see change, really we can't let up. So, it is an annoyance to folks, I'm aware, but we have to keep speaking up until we actually see some changes and some folks taking a strong position on this and actually doing what the law calls them to do.
Fury has asked us two questions. Are there any deadlines coming up regarding question one? Is there a cutoff time or something that could void the whole thing?
Yeah, so we actually did set a timeline for response from the state Senate and the state House of Representatives, and they blew past the deadlines, and they still have not gotten us the documents that we have requested from them. So they are not in compliance with our audit, and we are seeking legal action formally through the Office of the Attorney General. And once again, we're hoping to hear from the Attorney General that she is interested in supporting us in a court of law and enforcing the law.
It's wild to find out that she actually did vote for it, considering her actions since then, and that she wouldn't help you on it, with the campaign. And it just it's interesting that she actually did vote for it. That's actually a good sign. But still.
It's now known to be a very popular issue.
Right.
I learned that everybody voted for me after I won an election, Mike. So
yeah, right.
my numbers
Yeah.
aren't as great as the numbers that the ballot question got.
Well, that's a thing. Like I look
wish,
at that.
but,
Yeah,
you know,
that ballot question was more popular than anybody on the ballot ever. Like that, nobody gets those kind of numbers. Not even in
yeah, well, we
Massachusetts.
all
Even.
bring our personalities to the table, right? And not
Yeah.
everybody's a fan of the way that we talk or our positions on different issues or our styles or whatever it is, right? So, I think for this really was something that brought people together. You're right. And I know that you actually know my Republican challenger from the state auditor's race, Anthony Amore.
Anthony.
Hey,
Yeah.
kudos to Anthony and a huge shout out to him because
He's a good guy.
he did
He
not
really wanted. Yeah.
have to help with this, and he did. He did not have to
Yeah.
help with
I
this.
I love
He
Anthony.
had a pretty contentious race. He could have said, no, he could have thrown up his hands and said, no, that race was too contentious and I'm not doing anything and forget her and forget them. And he didn't. He adulted and he actually stepped up and he offered to help. And he lent his support. He didn't just lend his support. He wrote an op-ed to the Boston Globe talking about the importance of this audit, standing up for these values of transparency and accountability. And frankly, didn't have to do this either. Defending, the attacks that were being launched against me personally, and saying, respectfully, whatever you think about this woman, this is about this audit, and she's doing her job. We need to let her do her job, and expressing support for this. So I thought that was just great. Demonstrated a lot of maturity and just showed how much a lot of us have been really working hard to put our personal and political differences aside to get this done, right? That is what being a statesperson is about, is, yes, is there a time to have more political conversations? Sure. When you're campaigning and you're putting your platform out there and somebody's disagreeing with you, and Democrats and Republicans have, differences of opinion on a host of different issues, right? But when there is an opportunity to come together after that election is over, what a great example of how to get things done, right? That we can come together and that we don't need to agree on everything. My former challenger and I are certainly not just going to magically agree on everything. I am a Democrat. He's a Republican. I'm sure if we talked about a host of issues, we'd start having disagreements. But I think it's important, again, to highlight that this has been a great opportunity to bring people together in Massachusetts during a very politically divisive time, not just in Massachusetts, but across our nation. And it's been really inspiring to watch what we can do when we come together and when we don't allow the powers that be to divide us.
Exactly.
And to separate us from each other. When we come together, the power of the people is strong, and we are powerful when we join forces with each other. When we let the powers that be divide us through, accusations towards each other, or, different political divides that, maybe we have political disagreements, but we let them divide us as a state and as a community, that's where we see problems start to occur. So it's been great to see people come together. We got Republican support, Democrat support, conservatives, progressives, Trump
Everybody.
supporters to Bernie supporters and beyond. So
Yeah.
a really exciting time for Massachusetts, where, folks are starting to see what's going on up on Beacon Hill, and they're ready to take action, and they're seeing that action is producing results and that change is possible.
I love Anthony. He came on the show too when you guys were both running against each other, and he never gave up on like trying to get my vote. Like he did stuff that I was just like, wow, he's really like, that's the thing about Anthony. We don't agree on a lot of stuff, but we're friends, and like we work together on things just like you. You like you're amazing. Like that was the only race I cared about, because I was like, we got two good people. I like Diana and I like Anthony. So either way, we win.
Oh, our
It's
race
like,
was the race, man. When I
yeah.
ran for state auditor, I thought to myself, oh, like nobody even knows what state auditor is. I'm going to have to go out and explain to everyone what it is. And that was true. We did have to do that. But our race was the race.
It was.
I have to admit, I was not prepared for that level of, not necessarily exposure, but just, people being so attentive to it. It was my first statewide race,
Yeah.
and I had been a senator and a state rep, but I certainly did not think that our race was going to get as much attention, as a race for governor or something like that, right? But
Well, speaking of that,
because it was
every
a tighter race,
yeah,
it was a tighter race. It was a race to watch.
everybody keeps asking about this. You mentioned governor, and everyone keeps asking, are you going to run for governor or AG or possibly anything else in the future?
Yeah, I think it's natural for people to speculate about who's going to run for what and to throw names out there, especially when you're statewide and when you are working on issues that are really relevant to people, that people really care about. And, of course, I always appreciate, folks, participating in the process and having conversations. I do think it's very important to say that I have no plans to run right now for anything, to be honest with you. I am actually in recovery from the ballot question. And I have been taking this time to really focus on getting this job done. We have been releasing report after report. We got a lot of reports done towards the end of the year. Our team in the auditor's office worked really, really hard. And I haven't even, announced a re-election bid. That would be, in 2026. So getting through 2025, doing the job, really focusing on just getting the job done. It's not an election year. And, there will be a time for politicking once again and campaigning. But we have work to do. We have work to do right now. And I am not running against Governor Healy. I have no plans to run for anything. So right now, just getting the job done.
Definitely. And you recently audited the MPTC, I think it is.
Yes. So for folks who don't know, the Municipal Police Training Commission here in the state of Massachusetts, responsible for training our police officers at the municipal level, for making sure that they get their required training. That was one of the over 100 state agencies that we were able to audit during the course of the last year. Really, once again, I want to give a shout out to my team. We have over 200 staff folks across the state of Massachusetts who work really, really hard to make government work better. It's not always easy being the auditor going into some of these state agencies. People do not pull out pom-poms for them when they walk in with excitement that the auditors are there. So they do have a tough job and they work really hard. I want to commend my team for working to get, again, over 100 agencies audited over the course of the last year. And the Municipal Police Training Commission was one of those entities. And we did look to the Criminal Justice Reform Bill of 2018 and to the Police Accountability Bill of, I believe it was 2020. Hope I'm getting my years right there. I'm getting old, my friend. I'm getting old. I'm in my 40s now, and the years are starting to blend
It gets
together.
worse.
But wanted to make sure that some of the important reforms that were passed in those pieces of legislation that were passed into law regarding training in particular, that those training aspects were actually being implemented appropriately. And we did conduct that audit of the MPTC and find some significant shortcomings in those police training requirements, particularly that a lot of police officers were not actually getting fully trained the way that they needed to and in accordance with the law. We found that instructors were not always getting certified before actually instructing and training folks on the trainings themselves, that the trainers weren't being trained appropriately, essentially. And also found some challenges with documentation of records regarding police trainings. We had an issue in the city of Methuen, a local public corruption issue where, there were some significant challenges with our local police department, significant challenges that have, that have been federally investigated, that the Inspector General actually also investigated here in the state of Massachusetts. And it was found through, investigations and, other forms of analyses that there was a significant challenge with an officer in particular who wasn't actually trained, who it was said that he was trained and was able to be a police officer. And, it was quite the challenging time for the city of Methuen. So we were able to look into some of the process and procedures. We weren't able to take as deep of a dive as I would have liked to have taken due to the fact that there was a federal investigation ongoing at the time. So we did have to defer, obviously. We are not FBI investigators. Our office has auditors. So did defer in certain aspects that we were called to defer on. But we were able to look at other aspects regarding issues with documentation, issues with the way documents were being stored, a lack of accountability, a lack of oversight, files being left out on filing cabinets, records not being digitized. And obviously, anybody that knows, in a cash business, it's certainly a lot easier to, send cash this way or send cash that way and not track that cash the way you could track credit card transactions, for example, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, at the MPTC, if records were not being digitized appropriately and files were just, paper copies, and those files were left out in rooms that were not monitored appropriately, that were not supervised appropriately, some funny business could occur, right? So we did highlight that was a challenge over at the MPTC, and that they do need to ensure that all of those records are digitized, that there's increased accountability. The good news is, to their credit, their new leadership over there has committed to implementing our recommendations in full, and has actually already started implementing our recommendations, recognizing the challenges of the past that, need to be worked on, need to be addressed, and absolutely cannot happen again. So, did our part to make the contributions to help make government work better. And hopefully when we come back for our post-audit review, which is roughly 6 months after we conduct these audits, we will have an opportunity to see that the MPTC implemented recommended changes, and that they have augmented their training, augmented their procedures, and are doing a much better job, hopefully, at record keeping and digitizing those documents.
Excellent. We did have Larry Smith on to discuss that previous episode. So definitely our audience, a lot of them know about it.
Yeah.
Going back to the state legislature, I know we only have a couple minutes left. What does the state expect you to do at this point? Because you're kind of at a standstill. The AG isn't offering you legal representation. What are they offering you? Anything? What's the deal on this? Where is it at, and where should it go?
So the Senate sent a letter to my office after forming a subcommittee to discuss this matter. They sent a letter to my office enlightening us about the reasons why they believe they're entitled to break the law. Okay. Citing essentially the same types of things that they cited throughout their campaign against the passage of question 1, and essentially said, hey, come on in and meet with our subcommittee, which, by the way, none of the members of the subcommittee have access to the documents that my office is requesting. I know, because I was a senator, and senators, by and large, do not have access to, in-depth financial records or, the documents essentially that the leadership team has access to. And by leadership, I mean the Senate president and the Senate president's staff, essentially, in this particular instance. But certainly, the average senator or the everyday senator was not the Senate president, does not have access to the records that the Senate president and her team have access to. So, this subcommittee, who does not have full access to the documents we are requesting, which, by the way, again, the documents are subject to public record in every state agency that subjects themselves to public records. They would be matters of public record in my office. They have agreed to meet with me to explain their continued concerns about the audit that we are conducted, while continuing to refuse to cooperate and provide my office with the documents that we are entitled to receive on behalf of taxpayers under Chapter 11, Section 12 of the Massachusetts General Laws, which just was updated via voter approval by nearly 72% of the vote. So, I've said, I'm always happy to meet with my colleagues if they want to meet with me. My door's open. Come on in. I used to work with all of these folks. I'm happy to meet. However, that doesn't change the fact that you are still in violation of the law and you're required to produce documents to my audit team. So I'll meet with y'all, but you also need to produce these documents. And that legal action that we're taking via the Attorney General's office is not changing. We are still pursuing enforcement of the law. And of course, they're more than welcome to hurl their personal insults at me again, conduct the character assassinations that they've conducted in the past, and produce a committee report that talks about all of the reasons why they believe an audit of the legislature is a bad thing. Their, freedom of speech. They may say what they want to say. And we are still pursuing enforcement of the law, regardless of those things occurring. So that's happening in the Senate. And then on the House side, the Speaker pushed through a rules change to their rules package in an unprecedented rules change. It doesn't happen that way normally. Rules changes are done at the beginning of legislative sessions. But he pushed through, without warning, essentially, a last-minute end of session, end of the year change to the rules of the House of Representatives that says that they're calling on me to go pick somebody else, some other auditing firm, to send to them so that they can hire that person potentially and then control whatever that person gets to look at or whatever that firm gets to look at. Now, I've had some legislators say to me, well, Diana, at least he's giving you something. But I've reminded them, I'm not a legislator anymore, and the Speaker's rules do not apply to the Office of State Auditor. The law applies to us, and the Speaker's rules do not overturn the laws. They do not usurp the laws. The Speaker's rules are just the rules for the members of the House of Representatives. They don't have anything to do with changing the laws of the land that the people have voted for. So, respectfully, with the Speaker's breadcrumbs that he threw at my office, our office is not going to be going into the House of Representatives to meet with them to conspire to break the law by instead picking some outside audit firm that they can then control and limit the scope of what those folks are able to see. We never had an issue with the auditing firm that they selected. And I think it's really important to say that because the Speaker's move really, it's not fair to the auditing firm that they selected. And I think that actually, it even if it's unintentional, it scapegoats the auditing firm that they had actually hired previously as though they were the problematic part of the equation. No, friends, the auditing firm that they selected, we didn't have an issue with them. We had an issue with the fact that they chose their own auditing firm. They controlled the scope of that audit, and then they limited the information we got to see from that audit. We still can't see financial receipts, okay, to confirm that the expenditures match what the receipts say. We still haven't seen, what non-disclosure agreements exist. We can't see contractual information, procurement information, requests for proposals, things that are very much a matter of public record in other state entities. They refuse to allow us to see that information. They give us a few pages of, the so-called audit report. It's very limited, very high level information, basic financials. And then they say, here's what you get, and you're not getting anything else. And friends, that's just not the way that audits work. Our office provides independent audits on behalf of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, on behalf of you, the taxpayer. We go in, we decide the scope of the audit, we decide what we're going to examine, and we do so based on areas of, high risk. For example, state contracting in the hundreds of thousands or even millions of your tax dollars. That is very important to, a lot of taxpayers who want to know that the legislature's not giving out no bid contracts to their friends, for example. We've audited agencies where we have found no bid contracts and the hundreds of thousands of dollars were given out to friends rather than gone out to bid the way they were supposed to legally. We have found non-disclosure agreements executed unlawfully in the state of Massachusetts. There was a $1.2 million non-disclosure agreement executed unlawfully at our own convention center in Boston to conceal allegations of racial discrimination and retaliation. We can't audit that in the legislature right now because they won't open up their books. They want to control the whole process still. So it's unacceptable. Those are the things that they're doing. These are the excuses that they're making. And we do need people across Massachusetts to call their legislators and let them know it is unacceptable. Do you stand with the Speaker and the Senate President against the people in your communities, or do you stand with the people in your communities? It's a pretty simple question. And if they won't commit to defending question one, and if they won't commit to, not changing the law in any way, then, frankly, you need to keep calling them because, again, I served in the legislature for many years, and how things work is essentially that, folks stay as quiet as possible. There's strength in numbers in there. If everybody votes the same way, or if they do something without a recorded roll call vote, maybe they can get away with it. No, friends, we need to make it very crystal clear that everybody's watching. This is a very important issue to people, and it's our tax dollars. It is not their private dollars. It's our tax dollars. It is not the politician's house. It is the people's house. So we have a lot of work to do. Call your state legislators, call your senators, your reps, call the governor, call the attorney general. I work very well with a lot of these folks on a lot of different issues. On this issue, again, I know they're frustrated with me. It's okay. Still call them, please. Still call them and ask for their commitment that they're going to stand with the voters until we get a clear-cut answer and until we get their full support.
I see some people in the chat saying they're going to contact tomorrow. So I hope people contact their reps, their senators, the AG, the attorney general, especially, and the governor. Thank you for coming on tonight. We got a couple more questions that came in that people have, but we're like out of time. I guess I'll call this speed round. I'll throw out 2 questions.
I'll do my best.
You could just give us a quick yes or no, and we can wrap it up.
Sure, sounds good.
What state police? Everyone's talking about the state police because of Michael Proctor and because of all that's gone on with the Karen Reed case. And there's also some new news about like the migrant centers where we're spending so much money. I'm not against migrants. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like we're spending a lot of money on that program, and there seems like there's no oversight. Would you end up auditing those? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I'm really glad I stayed on for these questions because I will, see in the comment section sometimes, or just, from the haters are going to hate, oh, she's focused on this audit of the legislature. Why doesn't she audit the state police? Why doesn't she audit the MPTA? Why doesn't she audit the shelter system? We are auditing all of those things, friends. It is actually something that we have been doing. The state police has been under audit with multiple other agencies. We're getting ready to release a report. And we actually did release a report recently already of the state police crime lab and about rape kits in particular that have not been being processed correctly and have not been being processed timely, where there's a huge lack of oversight. And we need to continue to update those processes, make sure there's accountability. We've called on the Executive Office of Public Safety to provide necessary oversight there. And we also have continued to audit the state police. We're going to come out with a report of multiple agencies, including the state police, in the coming weeks. You will be seeing that in the coming days, in the coming weeks. We also are getting ready to release another report of the MBTA. We did a performance and safety audit already, identifying safety improvements that were necessary, performance improvements that are necessary. But we're getting ready to release tomorrow another report. We're doing an ongoing series, breaking it up into smaller reports. They're not really small reports, but there are a lot of challenges over there, and our office is not resourced to just audit the whole MBTA at one time. We just don't have the resources to be able to do that. So we're breaking some of the work regarding the MBTA up into pieces and releasing a series of reports. We'll be releasing another report on the MBTA tomorrow. And as far as the migrant crisis goes, look, friends, Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, progressives, everybody in between, has been raising concerns with our office regarding transparency and accountability, raised concerns about contracting and other issues. So our office is doing its part. I know folks have also called on the Office of the Inspector General to also examine some issues. And we had the Republicans come out yesterday and call on my office to conduct an audit. We were able to report back to them that we had actually already started the audit, but we are very happy to meet with anybody who wants to meet with us about their concerns, but also call on the Inspector General's office to do their part. So the Office of the State Auditor has some issues that it can examine regarding process, procedures, and some of the financials over there. There's a lot to examine. We're going to do our part and examine what we're able to examine with our very limited resources. We have been retaliated against by the legislature. They have funded us to the tune of 4 to 5 times less of an increase than our constitutional counterparts. Other constitutional offices got 9 and 10% increases. We got a 2% increase. So we're trying to manage the cost of living adjustment with that limited increase to our office. But we are still very much examining these issues and doing what we can where we are with what we have. And that work is in progress. I'm glad I was able to stay on to say that, because I've gotten a lot of questions about that.
Yeah.
The reason why folks hear about the legislative audit so much is because that's frankly what folks worked really hard on and they want to hear about. So obviously the media has been covering that a lot more because that's what people have been interested in. But just know that these other audits very much are ongoing. Again, our office audited over 100 agencies last year, and we're still releasing these reports. And if you go to my website, the Office of State Auditor's website, mass.gov/auditor, and you scroll down, you can take a look at a lot of these different reports. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Mike's got my contact information.
Excellent. And like you said, you're on Twitter. People can contact you on Twitter. Diana DiZoglio.
We're on a lot of these different sites. We're on Instagram, Blue Skies. My Steve is again made fun of me. He said I'm getting old, that I only sometimes will post to certain sites and not others, just because that's what I happen to have access to from my phone. But we're on all the social media sites, to my understanding. So go find us, check us out.
And I'm going to check out those audits too. I love you did one. I know we're out of time, but I just want to thank you for the Cannabis Control Commission audit too. I asked for it. You posted it the next day. So I thank you so much. And that was great too. So you've been doing amazing work. I thank you so much for being here. I just can't wait to have you back next time.
Thanks so much, Mike. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone who tuned in tonight. I appreciate you caring about the work of the auditor's office and spending your time with me. And very much look forward to working with y'all moving forward. So have a great night.
You too. Thank you. That's State Auditor Diana DiZoglio, who just spent overtime. I thought it was going to be an hour, and then it turned out to be 45 minutes, and then it turned into an hour anyway. So she's amazing. She's got another thing to do tonight. If this is the first time you're watching her, she's a powerhouse. Someone called her a tiger tonight. That's exactly what she is. I would not she's the only one that I know that could take on this, that would take on this big of a fight, even like just getting elected auditor. She talked about campaigns. We're asking about governor tonight, and it clicked with me because she had just won auditor, and then she did another statewide campaign for the ballot initiative to audit the legislature, and she won that. I mean, that was huge. And the thing is, too, when she's mentioning all the people who are involved in that, every time I went to the post office, every time I went to the supermarket, they were there. And it was usually women, and they were volunteers. And I would just say every time, thank you so much for collecting signatures. I did it the first time I saw you guys. And I must have said that like 15 times because they were always there. I've seen a lot of ballot signature campaigns. I've worked a lot of them for cannabis in the past and other issues. I've never seen a campaign so strong. This was like the strongest grassroots ballot initiative campaign I've ever seen in the state in my entire time being here, watching campaigns. I've never seen anything like it. And the amount of people that supported this and voted for it, and now the state legislature, the state Senate, the governor, the attorney general, this got more votes than they did. And they're all trying to not have it happen. Why? Because there's a lot of shady shit going up there. And they know that Diana is going to get to the bottom of it if she gets what she needs. And they're going to try to block it. And they know that she's on to them because she was up there. She saw what was going on. She mentioned the NDAs tonight. This is personal for her. She knows what goes on. There's things that I think that she can't say publicly regarding the NDAs. And she's trying to keep it professional, and she's trying to work with them. But you saw they are scared of her. And like, I'm glad you guys asked her about governor tonight, even though I know she wasn't going to say yes to that. She can't. She's focused on her job. She has to be focused on what the job she got elected to. But long term, man, she could be the next governor. She could. If anyone could challenge Maura Healey, it would be Diana DiZoglio at this point. So I love her. I know that Aiden Carney, Turtle Boy, he supports her too. Like, he hit me up, actually. He was the one who said, you got to get her on the show again. Get her back on the show. I was trying to get Aiden on the show tonight. We kind of did run out of time. I wanted him to ask a question. So that would have been fun. We also, a couple other things. I'm trying to think. I'm so fired up because that was such a good interview. I wanted to keep her on longer. I wish it would have been 2 hours, honestly. But I'm so glad she gave us the time, and she's amazing. You saw her tonight. Great interview. She's been on the show, I think 2, 3, 4 times now. I don't even know. She's, I'd see her out too. Like I, there was a dispensary that was having a big issue opening, and there's a lot of games being played against a woman business owner, and she helped out. And I met her on the opening in person. And what I was shocked at is how popular she is in the town of Haverhill. It was the city of Haverhill. It's just like every single DPW worker, the cops, everybody was like, Diana, they love her. Like in the Merrimack Valley, she is the most popular politician by far. There's not even a question. So that was great tonight. Looking forward to seeing what happens with Proctor. I'm hearing it got delayed. They haven't made a decision yet. She definitely will be back. We will have her back. But if you can, the big thing that everyone can do tonight and tomorrow is get up on that website. We got it pinned in the chat. Hit up your legislature. Hit up your state senator. And especially hit up that attorney general. And emails are great, but you know what's even better? Phone calls. And sometimes you can't get through because it gets too busy. They have busy signals. They don't answer the phone. They hang up on you. So you got to be persistent and call every day. Like, there's nothing wrong with calling every day and say, hey, I want to know if you've done anything today on this. I'm asking for an update. I called before. You said you're going to consider what's going on. So that's what we need to do. We need to audit that state legislature. There's so much shady stuff going on in the state. You've seen it in the towns. You've seen it in the cities. We're covering it. There's just too much to cover. It's so true. That's why I love all the other shows out there. There's so much to cover. There's things that I don't have enough time to cover. I don't have the bandwidth for it. And I watch the other shows covering it, and it gets me informed, educated. I love what's going on right now with all the YouTubers. Keep doing it. We all gotta just kind of stick together and do our thing and support each other. I saw LTL in the chat tonight. Thank you so much, Brian. Great interview last night. I know Brian was sick last night, actually. He had Juna Perkins on. She's running for district attorney against Michael Morrissey in Norfolk County. If you didn't get to check that interview out, check it out. It was last night on LTL. I think he's going to be live. Was it tonight? I don't know. Maybe tonight. I'm getting confused. There's a lot of different shows happening tonight, I think, probably about Proctor. LTL Media, thank you so much. He said, please find out what happened to Trooper Enrique Delgado Garcia. We needed truth and transparency in this case. Oh, man, I should have asked her that, actually. We just didn't have enough time. We really didn't. There were a lot more questions I wanted to ask her tonight, Brian. I'll ask her definitely about that next time. But you can also hit her up too, Brian. And you can let her know, like, let her know you talk to Mike a lot. You're friends with Mike from the Young Jerks, and maybe have her on your show and talk about it. Hit her up. She's on Twitter, Diana DiZoglio. I'm sure she would come on your show. So I'd like to see that too. You could spend a whole hour on it. That would be perfect. Thank you, Glamour Suze. Also, she gave a super chat tonight. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm forgetting some other things too. I'm just looking at my notes. I'm like, do I have any other notes? One of the things she said tonight, it's unacceptable. It's so unacceptable what they're doing at the State House right now. There's no reason that they should be doing this unless they're trying to cover up something. And it's just like the FOIAs. The FOIAs, they make the cities and towns respond to any FOIA request. They make the Cannabis Control Commission, all the state agencies respond to any FOIA requests. You know who doesn't have to? The governor and the state legislature. Like, that is so wrong. They continue to hide. They don't want any oversight, no oversight. They don't want to even have an audit so we can find out what's actually going on up there with all the crazy non-disclosure agreements and the waste and from the fraud. We have no idea. So it's good that we have someone like Diana DiZoglio, who someone mentioned tonight, is a tiger, because she really will try to get to the bottom of this. And she's backed up now by 70% of the voters who said yes on question 1. So she has to do this. And we have to make sure that they don't block it. So please, if you can, tomorrow, even tonight, send an email to the Attorney General. Call them in the morning and say, you know what, I'm tired of this. I want the audit of the legislature. I want you to back it. I want you to give her legal counsel. They're not even giving the auditor legal counsel on this. The Attorney General needs to step up. I'm not sure when my next show is. I have a feeling I may be doing one tomorrow night. I just got dropped a bunch of info. Stuff I already knew, but more documentation. And it seems like a very good time. Multiple sources hitting me up about Grant Smith Ellis and the nonprofit Mass Can Normal. So I think I'm going to probably do an expose on Grant maybe tomorrow night with some documentation or all the fuckery he got up with a nonprofit and why they had to kick him out, why they had the membership have a hearing about him, basically a meeting about him. And he decided not to show to defend himself. He claimed the oligarchs were after him. He was unsafe. But he actually did get on the Zoom and said, I'm unsafe. I can't talk because the oligarchs are after me. But he was on the Zoom. And then he jumped off the meeting. I watched the whole thing. We have all the documentation. I just got dropped a bunch of it. So we're going to talk about that. What he did to get himself kicked out. And he didn't even defend himself. A bunch of allegations against Grant Smith Ellis. So that's coming. Probably, maybe tomorrow night. I like the Grant shows. They're fun. That should be fun. And I'm just reading the chat. What did you guys think about Diana DiZoglio tonight? The oligarchs, I know, right? Grant claims that the Russian oligarchs are after him because of his reporting. That was a storyline for Grant for like 6 months to a year. And I'm not even kidding. He said that the Russian Curaleaf oligarchs were after him. Yeah, we love Diana. Yeah, she was excellent tonight. Yeah, I think she's amazing too. You know what's good too? Like she said tonight about Anthony Amori. He's a friend of mine. He's like the first Republican I had on in quite a while on the show before I had Nick Baldiga recently on the show. That was running for office. Anthony was, and there was a reason why I picked Anthony, obviously, because he's a special guy. But I think we all need to look beyond party at this point in the state. You're either with the people or you're with what's going on at the state house. You know, it doesn't even matter what party you're in. And Anthony and Diana are on the same team on this, and one's a Democrat, one's a Republican, and it doesn't matter. And there's some Republicans that Nick called out the other night when he was on our show a little while ago that aren't with the people. And there's a whole bunch of Democrats at the state house who aren't with the people. So to me, it doesn't matter what party you're in. It's, are you with the people or are you with the institution? And there's way too much institutionalism. Cover your ass going up at the state house. And that's why I love Diana DiZoglio. And that's why I like Anthony Amori. And both of them personally have helped me out on things that we've worked on the show. They've both reached out and tried to help. Anthony does stuff that I just, he's an amazing guy. So that to me, that race, it was so, I loved it, but I hated it because it was like, these are the two best people on the ballot and they're running against each other. And it does not matter what party they're in. I think we all need to get that way. As Bob says, Mike is my favorite liberal. What about Diana? And I don't know how much of a liberal Diana is actually. I think she's like me. I think she's more of a moderate, more in the center, like a lot of us are. It's funny because I used to be back in the day when I was younger, I was a hardcore libertarian. I supported Ron Paul. I had Gary Johnson on the show. And I also had like the Green Party, had Jill Stein on the show. Now I can't stand Jill Stein. Like Jill Stein, she's a phony. I asked her some questions in public and she ran away from me after I had her on the show like twice and promote her. But now for a while, then I went, kind of more far left. And now I've just come back home. I'm just, I'm a friggin' moderate. That's what I am. I just want to get shit done. I just want to make things a little better. It doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican. I think we go way too extreme on both sides. It's like, this is a perfect example. This isn't far left or far right. It's moderate. It's in the middle. It's what the people want. We want transparency. We want to know what our government's doing, what they're spending their money on. We want to know what the leaders are doing when they sign these non-disclosure agreements for things like racial or sexual harassment, sexual assaults. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on that they're covering up at the State House. So that needs to be exposed. And we need to know how much money we're spending, what kind of instances, what's actually going on up there. And they don't want to give it to her. You can see they tried to get her, like she said, like she's still a member of the legislature. Like they're trying to make a deal with her. Like, oh, you can hire a third party that will manage. We'll run the third party. We'll actually hire them. You tell us who, we'll hire them. That's bullshit. And why? Because they're afraid of her. They are afraid that she will not hold back, that she will not cover up whatever is going on up there. So we need more of that. We need more of that in the state. And I've tried to kind of remove myself from politics shows a lot and not have as many politicians on the show. But the right ones we're going to bring on at the right time. And Diana is definitely one of them. Hopefully we'll have her Ask the Auditor thing going on. We'll just keep having her back because that hour was amazing. And I think we all want more of that. I'm just reading some of your comments right now. Yeah, common sense and accountability. F being worrying about your party, you know? So thankful you had Diana on. I'd vote for her for governor, and I don't vote Dem. Right? I just have a feeling she may end up running for governor somewhere down the line. Just feels that way. No news on Michael Proctor. Apparently, they're going to delay it until February. They couldn't come to a decision today, apparently. That doesn't sound good. Sounds like they might be hung. Yeah, this is it, Glamour. Glamour sues. Suzanne says, I want information on all the sexual assault and harassment situations that we are paying for. It is our money, not theirs. Exactly. Exactly. Remember what's going on with the state Senate leader? I actually like that guy. I forget his name, for Christ's sake. What's his name? He's from Western Mass. Stanley Rosen, whatever his name is. Yeah, I'm forgetting now. I'm getting old. But his husband... He was like sexually assaulting everyone up there. Like that's the stuff that goes on. And then they have people sign non-disclosure agreements. So we never find out about it. And then they silence the victims. And the people that do it continue to get to serve and have their crimes covered up on our dime. That's the type of shit that's being covered up at the State House. So if you can, please contact the Attorney General. And when you hear her or the governor, they go on their safe space. They go on the WGBH Jim and Marjorie show. Sometimes they open, Stanley Rosenberg. Thank you so much. And I liked him and I didn't like him. I'm not going to say I love the guy because there were some issues too I had with him. And I when I say I like someone, it's usually about policy and things. Like I like some of the cannabis stuff, but I also didn't like some of the cannabis stuff on him. So I'm not going to say I love the guy, but if you hear the governor and the attorney general, they go on these safe space shows, WGBH, the Jim and Marjorie show, on the radio. It's at like noon during the day. If you hear them on, they usually take phone calls. Call in and give them hell on it. You know, that's what we need. We need to publicly shame them when they go on their safe space. And I'd do it myself, but I think WGBH blocked me. They didn't like me getting too much attention on their network. I used to call in there. I did. And I think also they didn't like some of the pushback I gave them, especially Jim Browdy. He's kind of a dick. He is. Let's just be serious. I like Marjorie. I met her once. I got a photo op with her and Tito Jackson outside our studio back in the day. I like Marjorie. The reason I really like Marjorie personally, she's a dog person. That's how I met her. She's walking her dog. How can you not like someone walking their dog? But I feel like it's a safe space for the Attorney General and the Mass Governor when they go on that radio show, WGBH. Please call in. When they're on that show, they take phone calls. You should be hammering them about this audit of the legislature. You got to audit them. You got to audit the State House. What are you doing? Why aren't you helping Diana DiZoglio? That needs to be every single call when they're on there. And obviously you can ask about Michael Proctor and the state police too as well. I would ask them about that. Definitely. So I would love to see more of that when those folks are on WGBH, the governor and the attorney general. But big time, what you can do right now is email and call your state reps, your state senators, the state, the legislature. You need to contact them. But beyond that, the attorney general. And you don't even have to be from Massachusetts. How are they going to know? Call them on the phone. They're going to ask if you do call them, generally, especially the state reps, they're going to ask you what town, you're calling from and things like that. So be prepared for that. But you can we do have a link right now. It's pinned at the top of the super chat, how to contact your state legislator, your state reps. I'm not sure if that has all your state office holders. I'll look at it a little later. If it doesn't, I'll try to find that and post it in the comments in the YouTube video. But you can Google. You can just Google and say, who's my state rep in Massachusetts? It will come right up. How do I contact the governor? It will come right up. But again, it's pinned to the chat right now. Yeah, just say you're from Boston. Especially if you call in the AG or the governor. Handwritten letters work too. I like that, Glamour. And another thing you can do if you're retired. When I was self-employed and used to live in Cambridge, I used to walk into the state house. I'd just go knock on the door of my state rep. I never got to talk to him, but the aides got to know me and they liked me. And they were shocked after a while. They were like, "Wait, you're not a lobbyist? Like, what do you do?" Because no citizens show up. And you just be polite. You say, "Hey, I have no appointment. I'm a local person concerned about this issue. I wanted to see if I could talk to an aide or the state rep. Back then, it was my state rep to me. Wonder if I got to talk to my state rep to me." They'd be like, "Oh, he's too busy. If you want to sit for a second, Jim will come out and talk to you. He's the aide." Then I'd talk to Jim and say, "Jim, this is what I care about." And after a while, they actually told me the truth. They told, because I was asking them about cannabis. I wanted them to decrim cannabis. I had been arrested for it. I thought it was bullshit. I lost my career over like one little piece of cannabis. It was ridiculous. So I wanted them to change the law. And eventually the rep told me the aide told me the truth about the rep. He said he's very pro-police. He doesn't like this, but he's starting to lean towards it because he gets calls from people like you. He gets it. He's still a little worried that the police will be upset with him. The aide told me the truth. So then I knew how to tailor my thing and to tell my story. So that's what's good about meeting with aides. You get to find out what actually is going on, like where the rep is. Is there even a chance of them supporting it? If you're good at it, if you're nice to them. And again, be nice when if you ever do a walk-in like that, you do a little lobbying at the state house, be nice. Politeness gets you a lot further than being confrontational. But emails, someone said this is great. Emails are memorialized. Exactly. So I would definitely send emails and I would definitely make phone calls. I think those are the best use of your limited time. Call and email. Yeah. And sometimes you also see them around town at the local parades or, maybe the local restaurant. You also might see them, like I see my state rep a lot, walking the dog. I walk a dog near their house. Not anymore. The dog, actually, there's another dog I walk over there too. So there's two dogs. One dog passed away. But yeah, I'll walk. Sometimes I run into her walking her dog. So if I see her again, I'm going to chat with her about this. Yeah, the staffers are the best people to get to know. The state aides, they get a lot done. And what's great too is when you call, email, or especially even show up, like I said, knock on the door, they look at like your call as representing 100 people that didn't call. So your call means a lot. It's not just you calling. They know that 100 other people were either too busy or didn't know, but that if you're calling and you're a citizen, you're not a paid lobbyist, they know there's a lot more people that feel the same way as you. All right, I think I'm going to check out tonight. I want to thank the two super chats, LTL Media and Glamour Seuss. Thank you so much. I want to thank I almost said it, Mass State Auditor. I almost said Mass State Senator. Mass State Auditor Diana DiZoglio for being here tonight. She is phenomenal. Thank God we have her here. Merrimack Valley, too. I love it. I love the Merrimack Valley. MVC. I didn't really grow up in the Merrimack Valley, but we always played sports against them. And I was more what we call the Cape Ann League, right on the water there. But, all the MVC kids would come and spend time during the summer, especially on all our beaches. And so we, friends with a lot of guys and a lot of ladies from MVC, Merrimack Valley County. I said, Merrimack Valley County or Merrimack Valley conference. That's really what I meant, the MVC. But Merrimack Valley, I love Merrimack Valley. It's a very working class community, a lot of artists, though, as well. It's got a lot of history. Lowell, Lawrence, I love it. I love Methuen, Drake-it. I love it all. Merrimack Valley, she's from Methuen, which is great, too. All right, I'm going to head out. Thank you guys so much. It was a long goodbye. I want to thank our moderators in the chat. I saw them posted links tonight. Thank you so much to MJ. Thank you to Jen, Stephanie, Sarah, who couldn't be here tonight, and Scott McGinnis. I saw him in the chat too. Thank you guys and ladies so much. I love our moderators. Give it to our mods. Our mods are the best. I talk them up a lot. I'm very proud of my mods. On the show, but in private especially. Every time I have a guest on, it's like, we got this great mod team. Do you have any links? It's a good feeling that they're in the chat. Thank you so much. This is a good point. KK says, how can a NDA stand when it's silencing the commission of a crime? Well, two things. It can definitely help silence the commission of a crime, because oftentimes people speaking out on shows like this or to reporters is how people get charged for these things. Like right now, there's a situation, I may cover this in the future too. Amanda Palmer and her husband, Neil Gaiman. He's in hot water right now. Looks like, it's made news because of, it being in the news so much. He could actually get charged with some things. So that's how it shuts down, silences, and covers up crimes. Because when people aren't able to tell the truth in public, then the authorities aren't able to charge people. However, legally, an NDA really can't stop a victim of a crime from talking to the police about the crime. So those crimes could still be reported to the police. NDAs are not able to silence a victim from talking to the police. However, a lot of these situations, like, whether you look at Epstein or what's the other guy named Bill Cosby, or this new guy Gaiman, it's a lot of times it's the victims speaking out in public and realizing they're not the only one. And then all these women getting organized and reaching out to each other because they've publicly spoken about it. And then they find new victims and they get organized. And then they take it to the police. So NDAs really do allow a lot of times crimes, criminals to get away with crimes. It's so true. And that's why we need to stop them. But legally, if you're a victim of a crime, you're still able to talk to the police, definitely, about the crime. An NDA doesn't shut you down on that. But imagine, it's such a horrible situation. You're a victim of a crime. Imagine you're at work. You're just doing your job. And instead of getting rid of or firing the person that did the crime, they go to the victim and they say, hey, if you sign this non-disclosure agreement, never talk about this again, we'll give you we'll write you a check. I mean, that's sick. That is a sick system. And that's exactly what happened in this Neil Gaiman situation too. He used NDAs against these defenseless poor women who had no money and no housing, his employees, and said, if you sign this NDA, we'll finally pay you. His nanny, that they weren't paying. I mean, that situation is heartbreaking and disgusting. So if the State House is doing it, we need to know about it. We need to know about how much they're paying people to keep them silent. And we need to know the details. And that's why Diana DiZoglio wants to do this audit, part of it. Yeah, they do not apply to when it comes to crimes and talking to police. But you're not. I don't think with an NDA you're able to talk about the crime with me on this show. which is a big part of blowing open a lot of this stuff. Not just my show, obviously, but the media in general. A lot of times these big cases against celebrities especially break because one woman speaks up and then realizes that there's 100 other women who have been silent, and they start contacting that one woman who spoke up, and they get organized. And the powerless all of a sudden become powerful because there's a strength in numbers, and they can show the patterns, and they can show this isn't just one crazy person making an allegation against a celebrity for money, which happens a lot, right? When you can show patterns, when you can show that there's many victims. So that's how NDA shut down victims. And a lot of times the police ignore it. You know, a lot of times the victim goes to the police. The police are like, oh, we don't know if you're just a crazy person. You know, think about it. And it's a tough place for the police to be in because there are crazy people out there that do that to celebrities and people in power. They make up shit. But the police all of a sudden are going to know there's an issue when 10 women come forward. You know? So that's why NDAs are so harmful, in my opinion, because they shut down the public discussion. They shut down the organizing of victims together. They don't know other victims are out there. So something needs to be done about it. Yeah, if you're asked to sign one, that is a red flag. Absolutely. And, you know, obviously there are celebrities that ask employees to sign non-disclosure agreements all the time in the course of their business. And I'm not saying everyone's awful. I mean, sometimes they're just trying to protect their family's privacy. You know, you don't want, you know, if you have a child and you have a nanny, you don't want everyone knowing that the child got D's last quarter. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things, like even my own family, you know, I've mentioned that I'm a step granddaddy right now. You know, the parents have said, please don't post the pictures on social media, you know, and I don't blame them. You know, I think that's actually a smart thing to do, that they actually told me not to be posting the baby's pictures everywhere. And I think a lot of times that's what celebrities do the non-disclosure agreements about too. They just want to keep the privacy of their family. That can be normal and fine. But in many cases, they're very sick. And there are nefarious reasons they do it too. No, we don't know Proctor's verdict. We're not going to know apparently until February. Yeah, I just... yeah, police use them too. So I'm going to head out. I may be back tomorrow night. I may be doing something on Grant Smith Ellis if you like those shows when it gets spicy. I got a lot of receipts. I got a lot of new receipts on Grant about some spending that he did for the, you know, without the nonprofit's approval that they had to pay for. The reason they kicked them out of the organization, all the shit that came at them because of Grant Smith Ellis being a part of the nonprofit. I think I might do that tomorrow night. We'll see. All right, I'm going to head out. Thank you so much, everyone watching. Thank you for the questions tonight. Thank you to State Auditor Diana DiZoglio. Thank you to the chat. Thank you to our mods. Have a great night. We'll see you next time.